The Play's the Thing, with your host, Judy Sleed. Special guest, Lee Davis, author, critic, and broadcaster. Now here's Judy.
I guess you didn't hear that since Cary Grant said it.
Not for a long time. Yeah, I wonder if that ever happened or if that's just a myth. I guess must
Yes,
be.
well, thank you. This is Lee Davis, and not to be mistaken with my producer, whose name is also Lee Davis.
Yes, we get confused all the time. Yeah.
Yes, and it's because you look so much alike.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Okay.
Nobody would know the difference.
I hope so. I hope my friends do, and Lee's friends do, too.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. As we discussed, I got to know you a few years ago, and I find you a very interesting person. I've been trying to get you here so I would know more about you. And finally, you're here.
Here I am, yes.
Here you
through
are.
the snow and through the murk, yes.
Yes, and well, you have so many titles, you have so many talents. Let's start with one. Where are you from, first of all?
I'm from West Hampton Beach. Well, I grew up in West Hampton Beach until I went to college, and I left and came back in 1985, so I'm settled back in West Hampton now.
Where did you go to college?
Went to Syracuse for my BA and NYU for my master's.
And you came back because you liked the Hamptons so much.
Yes, that really was. Well, it was a collision of circumstances, as everything usually is, I suppose. My parents died within 9 months of each other in 1978. And I was teaching. I'd been teaching up in Westchester for, I guess, about 27 years. And I had always been writing. I've been writing constantly in various ways. I'd worked from several magazines. I've done lots of scripts and had a novel that is still unpublished, and a few other things. And
Did you say unpublished?
Yeah, nobody ever wanted to publish it. I can understand why when I look back at it now. But anyway, and so I thought, well, by God, I'm going to come back now. I'm going to take an early retirement because I had the house in West Hampton.
Oh, you had a house there.
Well, my parents' house. They left me after they passed on. And so I took an early retirement from teaching, and I moved back here, and I've published 12 books since that time.
12 books, but not the one that you talked about.
Not the novel? No, not the novel.
A novel, but these books are teaching books?
They're all nonfiction. There's 3 show business books. One is the autobiography of Richard Adler, whom I worked on with that. Then a book about Jerome Kern, P.G. Wodehouse, and Guy Bolton, the men who really started musical comedy in America. And then a book called Scandals and Follies, which is about the great Broadway review. And of course, it takes its name from the George White scandals and the Ziegfeld Follies.
Oh, sounds very interesting.
But the ones that really make me money are my series of books on disasters.
Yeah, I don't know why people are so eager to learn and read about disasters.
Well, perhaps because they're happening to other people and not themselves.
Oh, well, that's a good reason.
When you have that distance, maybe it's... And in fact, I was mystified, too, because we had a British publisher of one of my books. It was called Man-Made Catastrophes, and it included airplane accidents and railroad crashes and so forth. And it was published as a popular paperback, and people could pick it up in an airline terminal. Now, can you imagine somebody coming into an airline terminal or getting on an airplane and reading about air crashes?
Crashes.
Well, I don't know. I guess everybody has their own taste. Anyway.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how people always like to hear about other people's tragedies.
Well, yes, this is very true, and I suppose maybe that's because there's something about the human condition that we like to, it actually brings out the best and the worst in us, and we all can identify, I suppose, with either one at one time or another.
Well, I would rather read about happy times. I really don't like to, even on television, I don't like to watch anything that's gruesome and I don't like to read about very bad things.
I see. Shakespeare would be offended by that a little bit, I suppose, but Tennessee Williams, Eugene O'Neill.
Well, Shakespeare, that's another different story. He writes in a different language.
Oh, really? Oh, my, that's
well,
funny.
to
I
me,
thought it was
it's
English.
like a different.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people like Shakespeare.
Yes.
So all these books, and you also are a director, and you do something in the theater. I've seen you in the theater.
Yes, well, when I was in that 27 years of my mostly well-spent early adulthood, I did a lot of directing of community theater and of school play. I think I directed probably over 100 plays and musicals in that time.
Wow.
And then I had my own dinner theater company for a while.
Did you really?
On Long Island, yeah. We did a production of Jacques Brel is Alive and Well and Living in Paris, and we did Starting Here, Starting Now, and we did Side by Sondheim, and it was pretty successful for a while. And then when you're talking about seeing me directing things here in East Hampton.
At Guildhall, I see you several times.
Yeah, well, for the last, gosh, this will be our 8th year this summer. We've been doing a series called the American Musical Theater Salutes. And they're shows that use very, very good singers. And I have a whole lot of, well, not a lot, but 4 or 5 terrific musical directors, and I write the shows, and they're based upon a particular personality in the American musical theater, either a composer or a lyricist, a librettist.
Yeah, I like that. It tells you about the, like it was like, I think you did one in Irving, Berlin.
Yeah, oh yes, we've done a couple in Irving, Berlin,
there's
yes.
some things in there that was very interesting that...
Yeah, if the composer or whoever he is, she is still alive, then we try to get them on the show, and I talk with them as you talk here on television, and or if there are ancestors still alive. With Irving Berlin, for instance, we had Mary Ellen Barrett, who was Irving Berlin's daughter, and she's done it a couple of times with me. And when I did Richard Rodgers, we had Mary Rodgers Gettle on the show, and then we did an Arthur Lawrence show, and Arthur Lawrence, of course, was there, and that was a very popular show. We had a wonderful time with him on those particular nights.
So anytime I see the name Lee Davis, I want to go see it because I know it's going to be interesting.
Oh, we have a lot of fun doing these. We naturally, because with a limited budget, we can't do any remarkable productions, but we have, when we do them with about 3 rehearsals, because that's about all we can afford. And there's that gives it a kind of an excitement as far as we're concerned, too.
And you're going to have a play coming up.
Yes. It's a play I wrote with a woman who came to me with a story. Oh, Lord, I guess about 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, my gosh, it takes that long.
Oh, at least. And she had the story about something that happened to her and her husband on the Costa Brava in Spain back in the 1960s. And it was a fascinating story. It wasn't enough. It needed an awful lot of expansion and so forth. And we worked on it together for quite a while, and then we started having readings, and we picked up some prizes along the way. We had some readings in Philadelphia and in New York and in Annapolis. In Annapolis, we won a $1,000 prize for this.
Is that right?
But it's constantly being rewritten. She sort of retired, and I kept on rewriting the play.
Well, how could it win a prize if it's not complete yet?
Well, it was a prize for new plays.
Oh,
plays
a prize for new
yeah.
plays.
Yeah. And so it's been percolating out there. We're still trying to find get enough money to do a workshop production. That's what we really want to do.
It's very difficult to find backers nowadays.
Oh, yes it is. Yes it is. And it sometimes takes something very elaborate, which costs a lot of money in the first place, to find the backers in the first. You know, for instance, Bud Schulberg's musical production of the musical version of What Makes Sammy Run, which was a big success back in the '60s. It ran for, I think, over 500 performances. And he did, Urban Drake did the score for it. And they've been, ever since then, they've been trying to get a revival. And Urban Drake particularly was dissatisfied with the way the producer softened everything up in this. You know, What Makes Sammy Run after all, has a very hard-edged novel. It's the novel that exiled Bud Schulberg from Hollywood because of what he wrote, and he was blacklisted by every studio as a result of this. Anyway, it shows the the stark underside of Hollywood. Way back, it was published a very long time ago. I don't forget just when. It was in the '40s, I believe. At any rate, they've done a lot of work on it, and just about a month ago, they did a glorified backers audition in a church on West 86th Street in Manhattan, and I went to see it, and it was staged. It was really staged with everything except the scenery, and they had a choreographer, and it was wonderful. And it was so wonderful to see Bud, who is now 91 years old, 92 years old, and Urban Drake, a real roue, a real marvelously sophisticated man in his 80s. So I thought that their combined ages was something like 173, I think. And they were sitting there beaming and wonderful, and I think they finally got.
They're finally, so we still have hope.
I mean, with a name like that, with Bud Schulberg's name on it, and Urban Drake's name on it, it still has a great deal of difficulty finding backers.
Well, I don't think you were present at Guildhall. About, they have this naked stage production.
Yes, I know very well. Yeah.
And
they were doing my play then.
I know, but last year I had 2 of my plays read there, and I don't think you were there. And it's also, the plays, it needs work. That's why it goes on naked stage, so people will give their opinion how it goes. And not only people, but myself and everybody else could see how it looks. Well,
readings are so tremendously important because a play is nothing until it's on its feet in front of an audience. And that's why it's been so valuable, as far as I'm concerned, to go to different audiences with this play and see how they react, as you undoubtedly did with your play.
Yes.
And that's the great service that Naked Stage is performing now.
Yes, I had several readings in Manhattan also, and somehow people react very favorably, but nobody wants to just grab it.
Well, I know that feeling.
I want it. Nobody's knocking on my door.
No, well, I know that feeling. Well, that's the way it is in show business for actors, for writers, or whoever. You are putting yourself on the line all the time, and you have to have, I guess, the
perseverance.
you got to have the perseverance. You have to have not quite the ego, but I guess the stalwartness of a general, and also the sensitivity of a saint to be able to write it in the first place. So it's one of these, and the same thing with an actor. An actor
callous.
An actor has to be ready to be rejected over and over and over again.
I could never be an actor.
Well,
I could never.
It's part of the business. That's show business.
That's showbiz, yes. Well, when I was younger, I was thinking about it, but I know the way I see how they make the movies and everything, I could never do those things, and you have to do it over and over and over. I would rather be in the background, which I've done a lot. I was involved also in a couple of regional theaters, and I had a lot of fun in the background.
Sure.
So,
very important, as important as people on stage. Maybe sometimes even more.
Oh, yes, you have to know exactly what you're doing. And
My son is a lighting designer, theatrical lighting designer. In fact, he's the lighting supervisor at the Queen's Theater in the Park right now. And he is so talented. Just, well, of course, I'm a little prejudiced on that matter, but
that's okay.
he
I'm
really
sure
is. He's enormously talented. And whenever I can, he's got time off, I ask him to light my shows. He lights the shows that I do at Guildhall, in fact. And there's always that feeling of comfort on stage, of knowing that you're gonna look good, and knowing that there's a sensitive hand on that board up there, which is enhancing the music and the numbers, and underlining what we want underlined, and muffling what we don't want.
So I was just going to ask you if do you like Guildhall, and what would you like to see that they should do there that they haven't done so far?
Well, theater's a crapshoot, as we well know, And I think that they have, I think Josh Gladstone is a terrific talent. He has great imagination, and he has great creative ideas. They don't always work, but it's not because they aren't creatively right, and if they aren't the kind of thing that a theater like that should be doing. The problem is out here, I think, is in getting audiences. I'm going around the back, I'll get back to where we were, but last night I was in New York, and I went to Playwrights Horizons, and I saw the musical version of Grey Gardens. And one of the songs in it is about a winter night in a summer town. It's about East Hampton. Okay? And the audiences here and in any summer resort really, I don't think, except in some places, don't really want very serious things in the summertime. And it's too bad, because I know Josh has done some series, done Shakespeare, and he did Moby Dick last year, which was a wonderful attempt, but unfortunately they had one casting problem in it. But it's just one of these sorts of things. I think that that Guildhall should maintain its heritage. When I was a kid out here, it was a summer stock theater. It was a star system summer stock theater. And as a kid, I remember going, and I saw Thornton Wilder was a stage manager in Our Town. I saw Dennis King in Blythe's Spirit. I saw Helen Hayes, I remember, and her daughter, Mary MacArthur, who tragically died shortly thereafter, in Alice Sit by the Fire. I mean, all of these wonderful things, these experiences, and unfortunately, that time has passed. So what is it that we have? What they're doing at Guildhall is what I guess anybody does to survive out here, and that is to have a wide variety of presentations, trying to hit every audience out here. But we do know that musicals and anything musical, cabaret, jazz, attracts audiences. Serious plays, unfortunately, don't. Doggone it. And Bay Street
like
has
to see happy
realized
things.
that too. Yeah. Well, so there we are in the summertime.
Yeah.
But this, nevertheless, is what are they tearing the building down out here? But anyway, this is something which I think is a puzzlement for anybody who is.
I wonder where I heard that.
Yeah. To shave my head and try that again. Yeah, it was nevertheless something which was. So I think they're doing the right thing, but they're searching as every theater out here does. There were some wonderful theater companies that just died
went,
because they did beautiful productions, but they couldn't get any audiences.
Well, there are not many people here, and there are just so many places you could go. at a certain time, and if you have performances, like 5 different performances on the same night, you have to just choose one?
Well, I don't think it's ever gotten to be to that stage yet. And particularly not in the wintertime.
Oh yeah, in the wintertime. In the wintertime we have Bay Street, Guildhall, and
We
West
don't have
Ham.
Bay Street in the wintertime. Yeah, they're showing movies.
Oh, they're showing movies.
Yep.
And but West Hampton Beach, they have a
Once in a
wonderful
while they have something.
performing arts.
They do, but they don't do much.
During
does
the
Guild.
winter?
Neither does. Well, Guildhall I think does more, and they're having that Steve Hamilton's bringing a production of art in there
Yeah,
next month.
I got a notice. Yes.
And so and then they've got Naked Stage going.
Yes.
They're trying to, they're keeping their hand in at all times, and I applaud them very, very heartily for doing something like this. And
Well, I think Naked Stage is a good idea, and it's very popular.
Yep.
This is the 3rd year they're doing it.
Yep, and it's a good company. They have a good group of
Yeah, I
actors.
saw a wonderful reading the last time that Josh Pearl had written and Josh Gladstone played it. And Josh Gladstone, whatever he does it so wonderfully. His acting, he's so expressive.
Oh, his wife Kate Muth is also a marvelous actress.
He was, and anything he does, I just love to hear him and watch him act.
Yep.
You could give him any script, he'll make it right for you.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's very important. I mean, it's very important to get the right actors for what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had good luck with this particular play. Joan Copeland has been reading a very important part in it for the last 3 or 4 times, and I hope to have her there.
So how many people in your...
There are 8 people in the...
And it's all cast?
Beg pardon?
Do you have it all cast?
Not entirely at this point. I mean, I have had it all cast, but there are certain roles that are going to be played by naked
But it's
stage
going
people.
to be only a reading at this time.
Only a reading. Yeah.
And do you have a lot of action in this play?
We put some action in now. It's kind of, the last couple of directors I've had have done that. I'm going to direct this one. And,
you mean like while you're reading it, you'll be walking around and doing things?
yeah,
Well, that's really difficult.
that's called a staged reading. There are different stages of readings, and this is a staged reading.
What I was going to say, because I had been to a couple of readings at this Naked Stage, and the person who supposedly is like narrating it, that's the stage direction. They had more of a part than the actors who were reading it, which I thought was wrong.
Well, I think sometimes they do screenplays too. I mean, it's a very democratic kind of thing. They open it to everybody.
Yes.
And they've had screenplays. Of course, in a screenplay, there's much more description than there is
Yes.
dialogue. And
Right.
that's the nature of the medium. So as a result, you get this overabundance, I think, from.
But then again, you have to pick someone who's very expressive instead of just monotone.
Oh, good Lord, yes. Yeah, well, I've had that happen sometimes. The people just. My producer brings somebody in, and I say, and it's a friend, and then we never see that person again. Thank heaven. So here we are. Now, I hope that this is going to be okay, and I hope that we'll all be there on April 4th for this reading. It's called, the name of the play is called Shadows in the Sun. And
Shadows in the Sun,
Yeah.
but that's also, it's not a musical, and it's
Oh,
a
good Lord,
sad
no.
play.
No, it's a play that examines the various aspects of guilt, because the central happening, the one that actually happened in real life that this woman brought to me, was that they were a Jewish-American couple, and they were at a resort on the Costa Brava in Spain in the 1960s. And they met 2 survivors of Auschwitz. one of them was a very glamorous woman, and she began an affair with this woman's husband. Now, instead of trying to stop this affair, because she felt a sense of guilt for not suffering as they had suffered, and she was a Jew too, she, in effect, gave her husband over to this woman.
Oh my gosh.
But now, this was the central thing. But now, in the play, of course, what I've done is to extend this, and each character in the play has some kind of guilt that they're working themselves through.
So it's going to be April the 8th at
April
Guild.
4th. April 4th.
April the 4th, Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, yeah.
That's when the naked stage is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we all try to be there, and the admission is free, and there are donations if you want to give something. Mm-hmm. And do you know anything about ability? Because I have a wise saying here, I don't know who said it, that you are the only person on this earth who can use your ability. That's very interesting, I thought.
Well, this is true. Nobody else can use your ability. That's the loneliness and also the challenge of creating. I mean, there's something there's something very lonely about the creative process, but it's something also highly personal and that only you can work with. Some people work in various circumstances.
So we have come to the end of the show, and I'm so happy you could come and visit with me,
well,
and I got to learn a lot about you. And now we're going to say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
So long.
Come and see us sometime. We have a lot of other guests lined up. People are knocking on my door to come on my show. I don't want to mention all the names, but
all the grooves from the knuckles from people knocking on your door. Yes.
Well, this was wonderful.